Dexter, thanks for coming on the podcast. You're the founder of SumoTeX, and you're a lot more than that. So let me hear about your background. Let's start where you grew up, what your childhood was like, even. Let's go back to the
Yeah,
beginning.
sure. Grew up in Malaysia, the capital city, Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. I was a very naughty boy when I was young.
What do you mean?
So, yeah, I was very naughty. I skipped school, play games, I don't study. Then one day it clicked when my mother told me, "Do you still remember what your ambition was?" Then I told her, "Oh, yeah, to be an engineer." So, started studying hard, working hard, got into a local university, worked my way to the final year, and found out it wasn't what I wanted.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah. So in order to make that change, I pivoted by applying a master's degree in UK. So I went to London for a year. Came back, joined a private equity firm, started working there for about two and a half years. And after that, I thought to myself, why not just start something? So I started my own private equity firm. Currently, I'm running the firm as the chief investment officer. Yeah. So I had about 4 to 5 years of investing experience.
Hmm.
In the past 4 to 5 years, I noticed that something is not right. The industry is dominated by huge players, people with the most capital. And things are often considered as silo and centralized. So I met Andy, my co-founder, and Mike, of course, is also one of SumoTeX co-founder. He's the CTO of SumoTeX. So I got them together and said, hey, why not? Let's do something.
Huh.
Yeah. Since real estate is expensive, people could not afford. Why not? We try to liquidate what was illiquid.
Okay, that was a really good summary of a very interesting past. And so I want to go back and slow that down a little bit. Your mom tells you you're a bad kid, you're skipping school, etc.
Yeah.
Basically, what that implies to me is that you weren't interested in doing what you were told, right? Which already I see the seeds planted for somebody who's going to reject private equity for a fairly radical industry like crypto.
Yeah.
But when you were in college, like you're an engineer, you're studying to be an engineer at an undergraduate level, or you're in graduate school already, or
Undergrad.
undergrad? Okay, and so what was the point where you realized, okay, engineering, it's not for me?
It was at the point when I was having my internship with a local construction company.
Okay.
So I was working on the site. Yeah, my major is civil engineering. Had sun, rain. You have to be under it.
Yeah.
So I was walking, and then I was looking at my supervisor, my superior, and I thought to myself, do I want to be like them in 30 years?
Yeah.
Or do I want to do something that is really crazy?
Huh. What do you mean really crazy?
Like change the world crazy.
Change the
or
world
at
crazy.
least that time I was thinking to be at the front line.
Yeah.
As in the financial side, the one that put in the capital, get the returns. At least you're feeling that, okay, my efforts, my capital is generating returns. But my feeling is just my personal view. So when I was working there, it feels whatever I'm contributing is not recognized, or I don't feel that it's substantial enough.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that I can achieve more,
Yeah, that makes sense. And so finance, what was your inspiration? Like, did you have a mentor or an inspiration or a movie or whatever, a book that kind of gave you that inspiration that made you think finance is where it's at?
Yeah, Wolf of Wall Street.
It was Wolf of Wall Street. Okay, I was asking you that because it was the same for me. Like, when I went into finance when I was 21, 22, that was it. And I think that's for our generation, a lot of people, that was the inspiration. Interesting. So you graduate, you pivot. How do you make that transition? So you graduate from undergrad. Yeah.
I applied for a master's degree, a graduate program
Yeah.
in London because my major was civil engineering. If you were to pivot into finance and economics, for me at that point, the most straightforward way is to get on with something related to construction and finance.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So I took a course in construction economics and management. And yeah.
And so you joined a private equity firm and then you founded your own. Is that right?
Yeah. I left that private equity firm and I founded my own firm.
How did you so you just had a collection of investors and clients that you met while working for a different firm that you raised capital from?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And how old were you then?
I was 27.
Nice. And
I'm 29 now.
That's pretty young to have your own private equity firm. And what kind of work were you doing there? What were you invested in?
We were mainly in real estate.
Yeah.
Mostly acquisition of the entire development, landing, and also we did a little bit of a private yacht leasing, private jet leasing. Yeah, we assess these kind of different businesses and decide whether we want to go into it or not.
Private jet leasing. That's really interesting. Why? What was the opportunity?
Surprisingly, in COVID, everybody wants to fly private.
Okay, that makes sense. There you go. So that was just an opportunity in pandemic year. Okay. So you're working with billionaire clients. You're working with just the elite.
Yes.
And so are you aware of crypto at that time? So where does crypto fit into your world there?
I remember my first investment in crypto, it's Fetch AI.
Okay.
When Fetch started.
Can you talk about that? What is Fetch?
Yeah, one day my brother was having dinner with me, and he has been in the crypto industry for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Why not try out crypto? So I asked him. At that time, I was still skeptical. Yeah. So I asked him, as a traditional private equity guy, I asked him, what is Bitcoin pegged to? What is it pegged to? Nothing. So he answered me the same thing. What is the US dollar pegged to? Yeah.
So that single question was the epiphany. It's, yes. It is all kind of psychological and arbitrary. And why not? So then did you deep dive? Did you go through that rabbit hole, that mind virus that crypto takes hold of people?
Yeah, I was in it for quite some time, man.
Yeah. What were you reading? Like you started with the white paper and then you went where?
Yeah, I started with white paper, then DeFi. Initially, I started with Fetch. Yeah. I just bought it blindly, studying.
So what is Fetch? Can you describe what Fetch is, how it works?
Fetch is, how do you call it? It's a AI company which does something like IoTeX, but they are different in terms that they have this artificial intelligence learning process in the chain. They have their own chain developed by a couple of Oxford grads or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Never. Yeah. Since I'm in IoTeX, I've been. I mean, you see the vision, Machine Fi. Why SumoTeX chose IoTeX is because of their Machine Fi vision and also the Pebble Tracker.
Yeah.
I believe that with the Pebble Tracker, every investment in real estate, we can have a proof like a oracle. If SumoTeX acquire this real estate, I will install the Pebble Tracker at the location to collect data and also proof of presence.
Yeah, let's get there. So I want to understand why starting with Bitcoin, you ended up at IoTeX, which you just talked about. So how did you find out about IoTeX for the first time? And why was that the one that drew you in?
Andy is the one who recommended IoTeX to me.
Okay.
So Andy is one of our co-founders.
Uh-huh.
He is the business development head. One day I was speaking to him casually. I said, what type of coin or token that is good?
Yeah.
Huge potential, undervalued.
Yeah.
So he told me, I've been stacking up on IoTeX for many years. So I went on and read their white paper. And wow, really impressive. So went on in.
Huh. And what grabbed you about it?
The fact that they have a vision for MachineFi
Yeah.
is what I truly believe.
In terms of the future of automation and connecting devices to the decentralized Web3. Yeah. And so DeFi at that time, what was your read of the DeFi landscape when you jumped in? What was the exact opportunity? You described it like real estate, and I want to go deeper on that specific use case. But when you first made the jump to DeFi, what was the opportunity that you saw?
Personally, or before I started?
That led to, okay, let's start before. Before you started a specific company, what were you thinking about DeFi? Were you like, wow, this is the wild west of finance. There's so much opportunity here. Were you skeptical? Where were you seeing it?
Initially, I was skeptical because some of the DeFi platform are offering really high returns. It's just a matter of picking the one that is sustainable. After studying much, I found that DeFi is really the future of finance.
And what made you come to that conclusion?
The conclusion came from because I am from centralized finance. So I know how disruptive DeFi can be. The DeFi is more liquid when compared to traditional finance. Say, for example, if you want to use your NFT as a collateral, you go to a pool, you pledge, you draw down immediately. But in traditional finance, you go to a bank with your house. It takes you maybe a month. Right.
High fees.
To get your cash. High fees. High rejection rate.
No transparency. Absolutely. But like you said, there's a lot of high APYs that imply hidden risk. There's something, and we saw it with UST, right? These are things that can unwind rapidly. That risk is not free. It's not risk free. All right, so let's get to SumoTeX then. So you read the IoTeX white paper, you're like, this is it, MachineFi, I'm in. So can you describe SumoTeX and describe how you built using IoTeX?
Okay. So let's talk about SumoTeX. I started out wanted to change a certain process in traditional finance, which is a pain point in Malaysia. In order for the transfer of ownership from asset owner A to asset owner B is taking too long.
And this is worse in Malaysia than other, like specifically in Malaysia, it's a major.
Specifically in Malaysia, it takes you about 3 months. 1 month the fastest. A month.
Wow, that's crazy.
So I was thinking, that is something that I would like to change, but unfortunately, there's too much red tape. I went to another pain point, which is why the average Joe, like me, like other people, could not invest in private equity fund. Pain point number one is it's too expensive. Your minimum subscription amount, I think it's 50K, right? 50K to enter. Secondly, you get locked in for a minimum of 3 years. And thirdly, the investment manager themselves are racing against time, because when you raise a fund, say for example, SumoTeX Fund A, and there is a timeline to it, right? 3 years. In these 3 years, no matter what happens, you have to wind down the fund. No matter
what
how
the
good
market
the
conditions.
is. So these three are main pain points that DeFi disrupts.
And how exactly does DeFi disrupt it?
DeFi, let's talk about SumoTeX AssetFi protocol. We have recently released our tokenomics. What we aim to do is we are fractionalizing or tokenizing these off-chain assets or funds. So instead of being locked in, SumoTeX unlock the liquidity of that fund or real estate.
Wow.
Both for the investors and the asset owners.
So
As an investor, for example, today I invest in SumoTeX, right? So SumoTeX has 3 different separate funds. The investor can swap anytime that they want without any penalty. And the dividend will be carried forward.
This is fascinating to me because actually in 2017, I launched a fund myself, and I initially tried to build it in crypto using an ERC-20. Yeah. So you could buy in, you could leave anytime, transparent returns. You didn't have this problem of high subscription fees and the admin. To justify the expensive admin and taxes and everything that goes into a fund, you need a fairly large minimum investment. Otherwise, it's just not worth it, especially for private equity, where it's just a higher bureaucratic administrative effort for investments. Yeah. But what you're doing is actually even another level, because you're talking about bringing physical assets on chain, which is crazy to me, just how much the space has advanced in 5 years. Because 5 years ago, trying to do that with a fund was very difficult. I think Blockchain Capital was the first to do it. But so how does that work exactly? So you're actually talking about installing Pebble trackers on location? Like, how deep does this go? I know you're starting, maybe not at that level, but
So how deep does this go? Pebble tracker is one. The second one would be the security trustee, meaning to say someone that is a third party to hold the asset on behalf of the owner and SumoTeX. So nobody can tamper that asset. And that security trustee will act as a node validator to feed the data on chain. Yeah. So it's like Oracle,
So the data that you can derive the value of the asset from, or just the verification that the asset exists? Or both, everything. Yeah. Have you done this in the real world yet, or it's just theoretical?
It's doable. I've spoken to a few security trustees. Currently, we are building our contract. Okay. So once the contract is done, I have a few very interested party ready to tokenize their asset or their funds with us.
Which assets are you starting with?
To give you a little bit of tips, nobody heard this yet. We are going to tokenize a pizza restaurant in UK.
Wow. Fascinating.
Yeah. And we are going to grow that into a chain. So that's one. The second one would be a commercial building in Malaysia that's generating stable yield of about 9%. So we will return to SumoTeX investor about 7%. I know it's really low compared to what DeFi is offering. But this is stable. This is stable. And of course, definitely we'll add some DeFi excitement into the fund, whereby people who invest can get additional SumoTeX token.
Yeah, and you want to appeal to different categories of investor. When you're talking about the 7% yield, you're unlocking a whole category of investors that would never touch DeFi because they understand there's hidden risks, or they're just not comfortable with this artificial algorithmic stablecoin nonsense that is inscrutable to the average person. So that's an incredible thing that you're talking about here. So when you say you're tokenizing a pizza company, what does that mean exactly? So let's go details if you can.
High level view is that, say for example, Dean, you come to me and you say, hey, I want to start a pizza company. This is my credential. I have run a few shops for a few years, and these are the budgets and your returns that I'm willing to give. So SumoTeX say, okay, we create a company, and the company is held by you yourself and also SumoTeX or the security trustee. We tokenize the shares and we issue on chain. So investors subscribe, and we have the fund, and the fund goes off chain, and you do the job. So one thing that is good about this F&B industry is that the till system actually is linkable to the blockchain. So what you can do is whatever that you collect on the cashier, there's a cashier management system where you can check inventory, your sales, etc., etc. Yeah.
So
in blockchain.
Go ahead. Sorry.
In blockchain, transparency is priority, right? I mean, everything can be seen. So that is what we are trying to achieve with SumoTeX.
And you're talking about transparency and tokenization at the level of the financialization of this asset, which is a core proven use case in crypto. But when we're talking about taking it to the next level in terms of actually having sensors on site, where does that come in? Because that to me is fascinating. How can we actually like create a digitized version of a physical asset that people can interact with financially and invest in? Do you have a vision for that? Do you have a vision for MachineFi personally?
Yeah, I do actually.
Oh, great.
Yeah, of course, Pebble Tracker is very, very important to SumoTeX. What we do is we plan to install a few Pebble Tracker at important points, maybe at the electrical point, on the rooftop, and in the restaurant itself, so we can track. Say, for example, if you log on to MachineFi portal and you have the SumoTeX D app, that's my vision. I haven't built that yet.
Yeah.
So if you have that D app, the investor can see what is happening to that restaurant, as in what is the weather there. And there is actually another deeper level that you can analyze. We say, if the weather is bad today, does your sales drop or does your sale increase? Or you get more online delivery? It's just a matter of how you interpret this data and make it valuable,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can make the investors a participant at the operations level, which as an entrepreneur, maybe you're not super excited about that. I don't know. It depends, but the advice is valuable or not. But yeah, that's really interesting. And then, so for the commercial building, there might be some issues there with privacy, which with the data itself is anonymized and private and tamper proof, as in it can't be falsified. It can't be falsifiably produced. But how do you view the privacy potential, the potential for privacy violations from this data?
To be honest, in Malaysia, currently privacy is not really something that is top of our mind.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, that it's important. So whenever we acquire a commercial building or a commercial lot, definitely we will have them sign something that, okay, this building is actually monitored by a device called Pebble Tracker. So do you give consent? If not, then we'll look for another tenant or a more suitable candidate to rent our space. Yeah.
Sure. And in the commercial context, what data are you thinking about tracking early on?
I'm thinking of tracking green energy.
Okay.
And to say the efficiency of the electrical usage, water usage in the building. That's very important, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know about other countries, but what I'm facing in Malaysia is that the data are often inaccurate.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is inaccurate or it's tempered by the brokers. I want to buy a building. I go to the broker. I say, okay, give me the cost of the building. So what they do is they temper the data, reduce the cost of electricity, water, maintenance, and it will look really attractive to the investors. So that's another pain point I'm trying to solve.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a problem in the US too, or is there just regulation that prevents that? Or as far as Malaysia or developing countries, it's more of an issue?
Malaysia has that. I'm not too sure about any others.
That's the country. Fair enough. I can't ask you to be an expert on every country.
Yeah, I jump to conclusion.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating though. That really is. That opens up another use case for Pebble Tracker that I hadn't even considered. So that's a fantastic insight. So SumoTeX right now, I know you have a Telegram group, you have an active NFT DeFi integration. What are you doing with SumoTeX right now? How can users get involved right now?
So something very interesting just happened last week. We recently launched something called Explosion.
Mm-hmm.
What this Explosion do is actually fuse. It's the fusion process with the MachineFi NFT. So when you fuse, you get something we call a X Sumo. So when you have that NFT, X Sumo NFT, This XSumo NFT will have the original traits and attributes of the previous NFT, but they will carry machine-fied traits, meaning to say whatever income or profits we make from the Pebble tracker, it will be distributed to these NFT holders.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys have a lot going on actually, which is really cool. I'm really excited about this project. I didn't fully understand what you guys were up to until this conversation, which is the whole point of it. And I want to give you, and I want to actually ask you just some more high level questions about the industry generally, because you have a very fascinating finance background. You're an insightful guy. Okay. With UST and with the DeFi landscape generally, what's your read on the landscape? Are you afraid of regulation? Where do you think the opportunity is for the average investor maybe looking to allocate money in DeFi? Do you have thoughts on that? Not financial advice, obviously. Disclaimer.
Yeah.
But just general ideas.
Yeah. With the crypto market right now, it's pretty much a bloodbath, right?
Yeah.
What's the price of BTC?
It's under 30.
It's 29. Yeah, under 30. Yeah. UST collapsed last week. And with Do Kwon going on with Luna Classic and Luna.
Yeah.
Let's see. I couldn't comment much, but definitely there will be fear amongst the average investors. Yeah. Even I got shocked.
Yeah.
Something like Terra could collapse.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was warned beforehand. Yeah. Regulation. Huh?
So you're afraid of, I think that's in the air right now. It's just, this is
regulation of stablecoin. Right?
Do you think that is just a net bad for the industry? Is there any positive from regulation that could happen?
There may be positivity in regulating stablecoin, but it defeats the entire purpose of blockchain.
The idea of algorithmic stablecoins itself, trying to basically re-architect a central bank and a Federal Reserve and the U.S. sort of system that goes back to Alexander Hamilton, to recreate that with code, to me, I've always been skeptical of, because you can never code your way out of economic fundamentals. And like you said, the US dollar isn't backed by anything. However, it is backed by nuclear weapons. It's backed by, there's a global infrastructure military behind it that just can't be replaced with code necessarily. Do you think an algorithmic stablecoin can work? Do you have thoughts on that?
Never thought so.
Yeah.
I'm really skeptical, because the definition of a stablecoin is that it's backed by something tangible.
Yeah.
If you were to buy, let's go back to the fundamental of stablecoin. Why do you want a stablecoin? Because it's stable, right? So when you buy a stablecoin, you feel safe and you can go to bed, rest assured.
Yeah.
Not wake up and it goes haywire.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of stablecoins is for that reason, not to get 20% APY.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy, 20% APY.
It does make sense. Yeah. And they're juicing that up. I think they had a core return based on the lending rate of 8 to 10, and they juiced it up to 20 with whatever they had selling their reserves or whatever, VC money. Yeah. Do you think we're entering a long and extended bear market?
That's a tough question.
Yeah. Nobody knows for sure. Yeah.
But I'm still optimistic.
Yeah.
In the bear market, it's a really good time to fill your bags with the coins or the tokens that you really believe in.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think this could be an opportunity for you, because you're focusing on businesses with, consistent cash flow. Pizza places, they're going to do well in a recession. They're not going away. Yeah. Maybe corporate offices, maybe not quite as well, but it's a hard asset with good cash flow, right? This is fairly inflation proof, at least relatively speaking. I think you're in a good position, it seems like to me. And in terms of like the opportunity with MachineFi and Pebble, this is a long-term opportunity, right? We're talking about hardware. We're talking about things that are just harder to build. The execution timeline is going to be longer than a software application. And so if you're in IoTeX, if you're in SumoTeX, like you're a longer term thinker. That's just all there is to it. So in terms of a timeline, can you talk about maybe when your release dates are, or when you think this stuff could be up and running at various phases?
Our protocol will be ready latest end of June.
Okay.
Right? The first fund, we will tokenize our first fund a month or two after that.
And will that be available to unaccredited investors? It'll be available to anyone?
Yeah, everyone.
Wow. Cool. Even US investors?
Yeah, I went through a hell of legal documentation discussion for that.
That's a big deal, actually, that you managed to do that. That's impressive.
Yeah.
I'll be an investor. Maybe not a whale, but I'm going to get in there. You've convinced me.
Yeah.
And the whole point is not for whales to be. It's not for whales. So.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And okay, so finally, we can wrap this up. Do you have any calls to action for listeners? What should they do to get involved?
So to get involved, just go to our website, www.sumotex.co. Everything is there. The link to our Telegram, our white paper. If you want to mint our NFT, is there. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Dexter. Or if you want to get to me personally, I can be reached at dexter@sumotex.co.
You can talk to the man himself. And it's been a real pleasure, Dexter, honestly. I'm really excited about what you guys are building. This is one of the coolest things I've heard about in a while. So it gives me hope. It gives me hope that the space is headed in a wonderful direction. So check it out. Thanks so much.
Good. Cheers, Dean.